Hey everybody, time for the weekly news recap for the 21st to the 27th of November 2022. Sorry we're doing this a bit late in the day. Had shit to do, sorry. Anyway, let's jump into it. So, what happened this week? So, as you may or may not be aware, if you are from the US, it's Thanksgiving weekend or whatever, so there's not actually a ton of news. So one thing that did come out as news of this game, Little Gator Game, has got its release date. It's going to come out midway through December. I think it's December 12th. So I've seen like a lot of different social media stuff around Little Gator. It is a very wholesome, fun little game where you are this tiny little gator, anthropomorphic gator. Just you're meant to be like a little boy who's, you know, having an adventure out in the woods with his friends and stuff. If you've ever played a game like A Short Hike, I feel like it has a lot in common with that, where you just kind of bumble across different things that you can do. It is being published by Playism, who are the same people who published Yooka-Laylee. So it's kind of, if you like that kind of charming, cartoonish, very chill kind of game. You know, it's meant to be, I forget, I'm going to have to paraphrase it because I forget their exact quote. But the developers have said that it's like meant to be like an anti-real world or an anti-current world game. You know, it's meant to be like just fun, and you know, there's not a whole lot else to it than that. But anyway, that will be out December 12th. Moving on, the free game this week on the Epic Games Store is Star Wars Squadrons. So this is a dogfighting Star Wars game. 5v5, I believe, fighter pilots. You have the Rebel Alliance on one side and the Empire on the other, so TIE Fighters versus X-Wing kind of thing. I believe it was meant to, in fact, be a follow-up to those kind of games, or a successor to those kind of games. From what I've heard, it's like very well received. There is a VR mode for it as well, which I have been dying to play, honestly, but I just have not had a machine that is capable of doing it, so I'm kind of hoping PSVR 2, please. Just not sure if the VR mode is multiplayer. If it's multiplayer, then yeah, like as much as I want to play it, I'm not touching PvP, so I don't know, I guess we'll see. Anyway, those are some of the games coming out soon, but what about if you wanted to play something right now? Well, released this week is Evil West. So in Evil West, you play this cowboy, monster hunter, vampire hunter kind of guy. He's got all sorts of different tools at his disposal. Probably the more interesting one is this electric gauntlet Wolverine arm thing he has, which has a lot of different upgrades and a lot of different things you can do with it. Combat-wise, it is actually a fairly close-in melee, somewhat ranged combat stuff, which is kind of what draws me to the game. You're not going to see, I don't think you're going to see too much of it in this trailer, but there is like, you see a little bit there, I suppose, juggling and stuff like that. You know, you can knock enemies into the air with your gauntlet and finish them off with the double-barrel shotgun. There's all sorts of really fun stuff you can do. And what I've seen from reviews and things like that, the general consensus is, yeah, it's fun, but it's janky as fuck, which is, yeah, not surprised, it's a focus game. But there you are. Speaking of janky as fuck, Gungrave Gore also launched this week. We also played a little bit of it on Friday. I'll talk a bit more about that in the channel update section. Gungrave Gore is a follow-up to the Gungrave series that debuted on PS2, and then we didn't hear anything from it for a very long time. Then there was a PSVR title, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And again, didn't hear anything about it now. And then we have Gungrave Gore, which is in fact a sequel to the 2 games that have come before it. So if you weren't following the story, you're gonna be a little bit in the weeds here. Not that there's much story to this game exactly. You walk forward and shoot the gun. That's the game. There's not a whole lot else to it. But you know what? It knows what it is, and it knows that you walk forward and shoot the gun, and that's kind of it. And again, I'll talk more about it in the channel update, but that's kind of also all it is. Anyway, and then last game of note, to me at least, that released this week is called Saint Kotar. This is a kind of choose your own adventure murder mystery kind of thing set, I believe, in Poland. I'm not sure. I think it's in Poland. During some period in the past. Again, for these kind of games that have heavy story emphasis, I try to like not know anything about the story as much as possible. As you can see, it's somewhat grim. You got people pulling their faces off and shit like that. I really like the art style. Like, it's very muted. The people in particular probably don't look that great, but I think the environments do look interesting, at least to me. You are, I believe, ostensibly looking for your sister, and you have come to this place, Saint Kotar, and there's lots and lots of murders and shit happening here, and you are trying to piece them all together and see what's what. Anyway, probably look for that at some point on the channel, I think, because that is definitely in our wheelhouse. However, just because everyone is on eating turkey in the video game industry, or at least in a sizable chunk of the video game industry, that doesn't mean there isn't some industry bullshit. So now it is time to talk about the worst parts of video games, the video game industry. Right, so from Kotaku's Luke Plunkett, one of the best Deus Ex games is disappearing. So this is news that Square Enix Montreal, or formerly Square Enix Montreal, now known as Anoma and now known as Closed, is shuttering Deus Ex Go, which is a mobile title featuring the newer Deus Ex protagonist, Adam Jensen. It is a like puzzle type game. If you've never seen it, are there any screenshots of the game itself? I'm just gonna play this so you can get an idea of what the game actually looks like. Skip. Show me gameplay. So you can see this kind of grid layout. Go away. This kind of grid pattern kind of thing. Enemies move on different spaces. It's like a turn-based puzzle-y type stealth thing. And is very well received. I really liked it, except for all the microtransaction shit. I really like that. There is also Hitman Go and Lara Croft Go, which have a similar idea, and Hitman Go is really good. I quite like that. Lara Croft Go is okay. It's fine. I don't think she fits the Go stuff all that well, but I think it works. Anyway, regardless of that, Arena Battle Champions, Deus Ex Go, Hitman Sniper, The Shadows, and Space Invaders Hidden Heroes are all shutting down January 4th. All of their in-game purchases, microtransaction stuff is cancelled now, effective immediately. If you have anything left to use, if you bought anything that still hasn't been used, use it now, because by the 4th of January you won't be able to do it anymore. So games being shuttered down, live services being closed off for games isn't necessarily new, right? This kind of thing happens, you know, they don't keep the servers going forever. What's interesting here is that the game isn't just turning off its live service stuff, it's going away completely. They are removing it from the store, even if you have bought it already. Paid your $4.99, $5.99, whatever it is. Fuck you. You won't be able to play it anymore. So unless you already have it downloaded, you won't be able to download it again. So if you're interested, go get that. But the games will no longer be able to be accessed after January 4th, even if you've already downloaded them. Okay, even if you've already downloaded them, there must be an update they're pushing out, so don't update it. It's probably the way to go. Or maybe you have to log in. I haven't played this in a long time, so they might have changed how it works. So you might have to log into the service before you can start playing? That's probably how it works if they're tracking microtransactions and stuff like that, so ugh, that's not great. Hitman Go and Lara Croft Go don't have any of that stuff in them. They're actually on the PlayStation Network as well, and I think they're on Switch and some other things. Deus Ex Go is not, which is kind of shit. But as Luke Plunkett puts out, this is a tragedy from a game's preservation standpoint, because now you literally can't play the game. You can't even play it offline or anything like that. Like, this is garbage. Anyway, moving on. The Disco Elysium thing continues. So, the legal battle between Disco Elysium creators and their former bosses has now emerged into a lawsuit, and it centers on an alleged €4.8 million fraud. So, to recap, and helpfully Eurogamer's Tom Phillips helps recap here, trio of high-profile staff behind the first Disco Elysium game were fired from developer Zaum following the company's takeover by Estonian businessman Ilmar Kompas, who is now Zaum's boss and controlling shareholder, and Tonis Havel, I've definitely not pronounced those names right, who was previously convicted of investment fraud. That's okay, weird thing to just throw in there. I wonder if there's something to that later in the story, maybe? So on one side you have the creatives who have alleged that Kompas and Havel's takeover was fraudulent, that they used company money to buy the company stock, which is embezzlement, and you absolutely aren't allowed to do that. And the other side of things, the business guys were saying that the creative team were creating a toxic environment, sexual harassment, people didn't actually want to work there, they were holding back development, stuff like that. So you've got a both sides argument here. A key part of the current legal wranglings now appears to rest on the ownership of some sketches, the first designs for a potential Disco Elysium 2. So this is IP issues. Even if they're just sketches, even if you just drew them on the back of a napkin or whatever, somebody owns it. If they're like official IP stuff, somebody has to own it. So who owns it? These drawings were reportedly sold for just £1 to a shell company owned by Zaum's new Estonian management. So the guys who came in, right, bought shares in the company to give themselves a sizable interest in it. Enough of an interest that they couldn't be ignored. I don't think they had a controlling interest. And then somehow these sketches were sold to them for £1. Who? Don't know. And then they sold them back to the company for €4.8 million, which ended up giving them control of the company. Okay? How is that okay? Did nobody... Who signed off on that deal? Anyway, this is the alleged incident which Kurvitz and Rostov, as the creative team, have in the past claimed to be a fraud. And if that is indeed what happened, yeah, that's fucking fraud. The suggestion is that Kompas and Havel intended this deal to be a stepping stone to them to then eventually sell the company to somebody else, to sell the company to Microsoft or Tencent or somebody like that. Allegedly leveraging the company with... Or not leveraging. Yeah, leveraging the company with a shit ton of debt, because you paid $4.8 million for a sketch. Anyway, Disco Elysium's former executive producer... Carter Kender also asked, what was who signed off on that deal? What the hell's going on there? And he was allegedly fired for asking that question. Kender then argued successfully that the court should seize the controlling stake of Zaum to avoid it being sold on and its value being lost overseas. So that has gone through. Essentially, the company cannot be sold. Kender's position in the company cannot be sold until this whole thing gets sorted out. So more on that, but, legal proceedings, who knows how fast that'll go through courts. And of course, it wouldn't be Thanksgiving if I didn't shit all over Activision. Okay, so this isn't quite shitting on Activision, but this is more news and more legal positions from Sony and Microsoft based on the Microsoft Activision acquisition. So the UK regulator is currently going through its more detailed look at the merger. And some choice quotes from both sides have come through. So we have that Microsoft believes Call of Duty is neither special or unique. And it actually levied that special or uniqueness at the players of Call of Duty as well. Because Sony is like, if Call of Duty goes to Xbox, it'll take all the players with them. Sorry. Apologies, disgusting. Yeah, so Microsoft, like, Call of Duty is, whatever. It's just a small indie video game that nobody plays. Fuck. Sorry, I'm allergic to bullshit, I guess. So it shouldn't be a big deal if we have Call of Duty. And which, would belie the fact... Why are you acquiring Activision if you don't give a shit about Call of Duty? Anyway, Sony disagrees. Obviously, they believe if they lost all of the players who play Call of Duty, this would significantly impact upon their monthly active users. Based on these figures, if the number itself is redacted, I'm sure it's a lot though, monthly active users switch to Xbox, PlayStation will be left with far fewer users than Xbox. Now, if that is true, Sony should maybe not be relying so heavily on a third party. for their multi-active users. Just a thought. Maybe compete a little bit with Call of Duty if that's such an issue for you. The network effect of losing Call of Duty would hinder the company's ability to invest in new games. This is from Sony, the loss of all or a significant portion of these users together with their associated revenues and profits would severely diminish Sony Interactive Entertainment's ability and incentive to invest in future hardware innovation and gaming technologies. Well, having them there hasn't incentivized you to invest, and losing them, you claim, would also not incentivize you to invest. So it sure sounds like you just don't want to invest. But it does go back to, like, if you are so concerned about losing them, fucking do something. You know? That Killzone IP, it's sitting right there doing fucking nothing. You could also argue that they are doing something about it. They have, like, 10 live service games in development at the moment that we know very little about. Will they be done before this merger goes through? We don't know. Microsoft, again, saying Call of Duty is not special, it's not unique. Call of Duty gamers spent essentially the same time on FIFA, Fortnite, GTA, Minecraft, NBA, Rocket League, etc., etc. This is kind of ignoring the fact that a lot of those games, one, are free, and two, primarily subsist on microtransactions than anything else. And they would claim that if gamers are spending, you know, comparatively roughly the same amount of time on all of these, then Call of Duty does not have a greater ability to drive consumption, etc., etc. Sony says this is not a like-for-like thing. Call of Duty is unique because of its popularity, loyalty, and the enormous resources Activision commits to developing the franchise. That does not make a game unique. I think the more unique part of it is that they churn one out every year, and people buy a new one every year. For some reason, even though it's the same game over and over again. Anyway, like, both of these arguments are disingenuous. Like, Microsoft's argument that Call of Duty is the same as playing GTA. It's not. It's very much not. The same as playing Rocket League and so on. I would feel people who spend most of their time playing Rocket League just play Rocket League. You know, it's kind of that kind of thing. People who just play Call of Duty, they just do. That's it. They don't really play anything else. There's probably some crossover, at least in Europe, of Call of Duty and FIFA, because they are kind of, sort of, the same kind of Mountain Dew, Doritos gamer kind of thing. Maybe Call of Duty and NBA has a crossover in the US, I don't know. Fortnite, I feel, because it's free, you're going to get a lot more people into it. But again, most of that is done on microtransactions, and I feel Epic probably get more out of that than Sony and Microsoft do. Anyway, Xbox argue that both Nintendo and Steam have been able to compete despite not having Call of Duty content on their platforms. This kind of surprised me. I could have sworn Call of Duty was on PC, but apparently it's not. Again, massively disingenuous. Nintendo does not have anywhere close to the market cap of Sony or Xbox in the US. And Steam has its own thing on PC. It is effectively a monopoly, kind of. You know, Epic and GOG and Itch and so on don't have the same kind of pull. Epic Games is getting there, but Steam is still kind of the de facto PC platform, so I don't feel that argument holds any weight. Sony throws back and says Microsoft wants PlayStation to become Nintendo, so it will be less close in market, presumably, and less effective competitor to Xbox. Sony throwing some shade at Nintendo there. Sony alleging that Nintendo is a family-oriented thing. It wouldn't have the same kind of pull that some of the more mature games you see on PlayStation and Xbox, Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, those kind of games. Microsoft says, but lol, Bayonetta 3. Accepting that, like, that's probably the only one on that. Except for maybe the cloud games, I guess, but they don't fucking count. Anyway, Sony says that their concerns reflect genuine and evidence concerns about a tech titan buying up irreplaceable content at incontestable prices. They do have a point with that, in that, like, nobody can compete with Microsoft money. You know, that's so much. They can throw whatever money they want at it. Sony would never be able to compete with that. Nintendo and so on. EA if they wanted to, Ubisoft, none of them would be able to contend with something like that. But Call of Duty, or not Call of Duty, Microsoft has the same argument that I had, which is if Sony are worried about a hypothetical withholding of Activision content, it would have at the very least 6 years to prepare a competitive response in time for the launch of the next generation of consoles. Yeah, compete. And to be honest, Microsoft, I could say the same thing to you. You don't need to buy Activision to compete. Use some of that Microsoft money, fund some first-party games for a change. No? What's the last first-party Xbox game? Forza? Maybe? Is that even first-party? Halo. Yeah, Halo. I think Halo was the last one. Halo Infinite. Anyway, EA has for many years tried to compete with Call of Duty, Sony says, but as of August of last year, Battlefield has sold under 100 million units compared with Call of Duty's 400 million units. So, yeah, this is kind of a way of saying that creating a direct competitor to Call of Duty is difficult. As is evidenced here by EA trying to do their direct competitor Battlefield. Sony also has experience with that, with trying to make Killzone a direct competitor for Call of Duty. That was the last Killzone game you heard of. Exactly. So it's not easy, but you could try. You could try, Anyway. Developers and publishers view multi-game subscription services as just one monetization model for gaming content. It's from Microsoft trying to claim that Game Pass isn't going to just eat the whole game industry. Similarly, gamers see subscription services as just one of the many ways in which gaming content is paid for. No, they don't. They see it as one or the other. If you knew all of brand new games were going to come out on Game Pass, would you just get Game Pass? If a brand new game didn't come out on Game Pass, but you already had Game Pass, would you buy the brand new game or would you just wait for it to come to Game Pass? Same. They're not seen as a different monetization model. They're not seen as an optional monetization model. It's seen as this or that. You either go on the subscription stuff or you buy the game itself outright. So Microsoft's levying of that was basically saying, lol, it's just another thing that people can pay through. They can both coexist. Sony saying, no, it'll be one or the other. I kind of feel that, yeah, because if I fucking had Game Pass, I don't think I'd be buying games when they released. I think I'd wait. I don't have a machine that can run it. Haven't looked into PC Game Pass. Anyway, Sony saying basically subscriptions are an alternative to the buy-to-play model. They are not a coexisting thing. Microsoft points out that PlayStation Plus has the biggest game subscription service with the most users. Sony points out this is disingenuous because the bottom tier of PlayStation Plus is more in line with games with Gold, whereas the upper tier, PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium, would be more indirectly in line with Game Pass, and in that case, they do not have a bigger subscription service. Again, kind of agree with them on that. Microsoft says it has no intention of taking the series away from PlayStation. Even if it did, PlayStation would remain market leader. Debate. Sony doesn't trust Xbox's claim around Call of Duty, citing previous studio acquisitions, and points at its past behavior in other industries, ouch, as proof of its desire to foreclose businesses. So what they're claiming here is that you will shutter the business that we have a deal with, take the IP, put that IP in another business, and then we don't have a deal with that business anymore and we can just do whatever we want. So Microsoft have precedent for this kind of thing. They did buy ZeniMax, and games now coming from ZeniMax Studios, the next Elder Scrolls, Starfield, etc., are exclusive. They bought up Ninja Theory. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice was multi-platform. Once they bought them, it became exclusive, and so on and so forth. So they have precedents. Sony isn't grasping at straws here. Microsoft have a habit of doing this. Sony also have a habit of doing this, but okay. Anyway, moving on. This is more of an aside kind of thing, but the FTC reportedly considering lawsuit against Microsoft. So this is more of a rumor really than anything else, but I think it lines up because the other governing bodies, the other major governing bodies, the UK's Consumer marketing something, and the EU's equivalent have also committed to doing a further look into this deal. This is just the FTC saying much the same thing. We're going to look further into this deal, and we're going to block the deal until we have completed our investigation. But again, this is reportedly, considering it is not in stone yet. Okay, we're going to finish off with something very stupid and very telling of the whole video game industry as it stands. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 players are buying a weapon on eBay as it is easier than unlocking it in the game. It is less of a fucking grind if you just fucking buy it outright. Modern Warfare 2 players are paying real money on eBay to unlock a hard-to-gain weapon in-game. This assault rifle, whatever it is locked behind a challenge in the Warzone's DMZ mode and is a massive pain in the ass to complete. And therefore people are like, fuck it, I'll just pay for it. So based on eBay listings, players are paying £5 on average to sellers who will then arrange to join the game and drop off the gun. So essentially, if you have ever unlocked the gun, you are able to drop it in-game, and then other people who have not unlocked it can pick it up, and then as long as they finish that session, they'll have it unlocked. I don't know why. Is it a very good gun or something? Whatever. But yeah, that's kind of dumb, in that it is easier to just fucking pay for it. Or people are so wanted and find that the in-game challenge to do it such a pain in the hole that they would rather buy it. Says a lot about your video game design, Activision. Says a lot about your video game design. But then coming down the line, which is even worse, Activision plans to sell this weapon later as part of a weapons bundle and will cost significantly more, around £15, or if you want to get it, legit. If you want to pay for it legitimately, it's going to cost you triple what people are doing on eBay. That's the market talking to you, Activision. You might want to drop your price a little bit. Anyway, let's loop Evil West. Why not? Anyway, that was the news, the weekly news recap for the 21st to the 27th of November, 2022. Again, not a whole lot going on because it's Thanksgiving week in the US. A sizable portion of the games industry is based in the US, so there's not a whole lot of news. Little Gator game I've been kind of keeping my eye on through social media, and it looks fun. The social media posts are funny, and it absolutely is not taking itself very seriously. It is definitely meant to be a kind of just fun kid Gator just doing kid stuff. New releases, Evil West looks fun. I just want to give it a look myself at some point. Gungrave Gore, talk about that in a minute. And Saint Cotard seems like an interesting puzzly type thing. Deus Ex Go disappearing forever, even if you have bought it, is a massive indictment of digital games. It's like, I paid this money, I should own the game, and it's, even more so that no, you have paid for access to the game, and we are now revoking that access to the game. Shit. Very shit for what we want everyone to consider art, and is art, is an artistic endeavor, is a video game, and we have just decided, no, it's gone. Fuck it. We're just gonna burn this painting down, or demolish this statue, or whatever, That's not something we would want to advocate for, presumably. Disco Elysium thing coming to a head on an actual fraud lawsuit. Like, we really need that to be put out in court and have, all the evidence laid out, because at the moment it's a lot of conjecture and, he said, she said stuff. So having that laid out in an actual courtroom will be interesting. How much of that we actually get to be privy to, debatable. I guess we'll find out later. And the Activision Sony back and forth, I'm not really sure where that's going. The fact that EU, UK, and the US now seem to be taking a closer look at this is interesting, because I would almost have said that was a given. They were just going to rubber stamp it, because they had rubber stamped everything else from Microsoft's acquisitions previously. Like, they let the ZeniMax one go through, which they absolutely should not have, but they did. And and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's interesting. We'll see what comes of it. It's going to be a while before we hear anything of it. The UK one, for instance, won't end until March of next year. So we're going to be hearing a lot more about this kind of shit as things go on. What was the last one? I forget now. Anyway, and then people just buying. I will just pay for somebody to join my game and drop the thing, and then I'll pick it up, rather than do the challenge in the game. Like, how bad is the challenge? I'm kind of interested, but also I don't actually care all that much. But here we are. Anyway, that was the news for this week. But what about the news on the channel this week? So, just gonna open us up here. So here is our shortlist, roadmap, mosaic, whatever you want to call it, for the second half of 2022. Again, reminders, green ticks, game has been played. There's a VOD of it somewhere on the channel. Some of them are full LP, some of them are one-shots. The yellow dotted ones, games are currently in progress. The grey clocks, game is on its way, eventually. Either I'm waiting for a sale or I'm waiting for a decent time slot to play it. And if there's nothing on it, I don't know, it's too far out for me to decide what I'm doing with it. So, on Monday, we finished Signalis. This is a survival horror game from a German developer called Rose Engine, and it is excellent. It's so well done. It's right up there with Resident Evil 2, Silent Hill 2. It's an excellent survival horror game. I really, really enjoyed it. I still don't entirely know what the fuck happened in the game, which makes me really want to replay it. So I've been considering for a while doing a Foley Versus series where I kind of do like challenges in some games. So there's a challenge in this game to like finish it on the hardest setting and stuff like that. So I'm considering that kind of thing. There's some other ones. Death's Door, the Crow game, has a challenge mode where you beat the whole game with just the umbrella, which is the worst weapon in the game. Again, it's that kind of thing I've been considering, so I am thinking like Signalis do like a survival mode is what it's called, the hardest mode in the game. So I am thinking of it, but we'll see. Anyway, which means Monday now has a free slot, so I am considering The Devil in Me. We'll do a full LP of this. Anyone who has been on the channel previously would know that I have been playing through the Dark Pictures games with friend of the channel Melwin. She has not played a lot of these, whereas I have played all of them multiple times. I'm actually fairly familiar with those games. And I did want to wait for Melwin to be around and also to buy the game and so on, to play Devil in Me together, but it's going to be a while and I can't wait. So, I don't know, I'm thinking about it. I might end up doing something else on Monday, but right now, I'm thinking we'll do an LP of The Devil in Me. Wednesday, we didn't play Vampire the Masquerade Swan Song because I had family over and I couldn't get away to stream. So, that was that. So I've changed my approach a little bit to Swan Song. So there were some save games shenanigans last time where a sizable chunk of gameplay just didn't save. So an entire chapter just didn't save and we would have had to do it over again. So what I've actually done is restarted the game. And having looked through like trophy roadmaps and stuff like that, I missed a lot. In a couple of different chapters, so I have instead elected to just keep the guide open, because I want to showcase the game, and I want to showcase the game as best as I can. That's kind of when I do Let's Plays. That's kind of what I'm going for. Like, I'm not trying to like rip through the game or do it as fast as possible or stuff like that. I do want to see as much of the game as I can and see it on stream. So that is what I'm going for this time. So I have played us back to where we were, so we won't be replaying too many chapters except the one we missed. We will be replaying that one because I turns out missed actually quite a lot of stuff. So we're going to redo that one. And then we'll move on from there. Thursday, Plague Tale Requiem, we did play a bit more of that. Story has gotten very weird and very grim It was actually a very cool chapter we played on Thursday. Would recommend you give that a look on the VOD. Like, this game is very grim and depressing as it is, but this one was pretty bad. This one was pretty bad. Anyway, again, new-ish game. I'm not going to give any of the story away, but yes, I'm very much enjoying it. We are 3/4 of the way through the game now, I think, based on chapter count. I think we're rolling into chapter 12, and there are 16 or 17 chapters. So we're close enough to 3/4 of the way through. Yeah, so more of that on Thursday. Friday, we played. I didn't put a trailer for it. Well, fuck it. Not a good enough game for me to put a trailer for it. We played Gungrave Gore on Friday. It was bad. I was actually enjoying it for like the first hour of the game because it was very dumb, very very linear, but it was fun. It was just shooting stuff, lots of different combos, lots of different ways to shoot people and stuff like that. So I was enjoying it then. About the second hour in, it started to get, okay, there hasn't really been much evolution in the gameplay. We're kind of still just walking forward shooting people, huh? Okay. Keep doing that. Some of the enemies change, maybe, but regardless, you're still kind of walking forward, just hammering the trigger button. You actually do have to pull the trigger for every single shot, or every 4 shots, as it is, whatever it is. That was not fun. And then the very last section, I got very salty and just quit the stream. There was a section where we had to run around the top of a train with like directions and banners and stuff flying at us and big rails flying at us and stuff. You had to jump over and dodge and whatever. That part was fine. The part that was not fine is that you had to get down into a lower part of the train before a tunnel smashed into your head. I could not do it. I'm struggling to think how anybody could actually do it without just, luck, pure dumb luck. Because you are almost on a timer from the very beginning of the run, as I have discovered later doing it, because I did keep playing the game afterwards, and as I later discovered, on easy mode, the game actually is somewhat on a timer. That you do have. I'm just going to loop this. That you are somewhat on a timer from when you come up onto the top of the train to when the tunnel arrives. So you are actually going through an environment. It's not like when you get to a certain point on the train, then they load in the tunnel. You do actually have a certain amount of time before you can get to it. So you do have to just run. You have to run and hope you don't get killed. That's the only way I've discovered how to do it. And I was not able to do it on normal mode. It had to be done on easy mode. So I don't know. Come back later when you have a few more upgrades and you can take a few more hits. Maybe it's a bit easier. Or maybe I'm missing a full game mechanic. But whatever. It fucking sucked. I did keep playing off stream after that just to see, okay, I'm through this horrible section. And I was kind of enjoying the game. So I'm like, okay, what's next? It's the same. It's walk forward and shoot guys. But now the environment's a little different. There's not a whole lot to it. There's not enough variation, basically, for me. It is very much a PS2 game, and I get that's what they were going for, and yeah, they nailed it. But it's like a bare bones PS2 game. There's no collectibles. There's no off the beaten path stuff. It is entirely linear. There's no, hey, go over here and you'll find a secret thing or something like that, or a secret challenge thing you can do. Games like Devil May Cry are like that. They're linear. You go from one point to one point. You have an arena of enemies to fight, and yet they're fun. But they also have collectibles, off the beaten track stuff. Reward people for exploring, that kind of thing. Gungrave does not do any of that, so I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, Resident Evil 2, that has been rolling there in the background. We didn't play any of it yesterday because I woke up at 6 p.m. yesterday. So, anyway, I had, and I still had lots to do. So yeah, I had to just forego the stream. So we'll continue it next week instead. Continuing Claire's scenario A, we should get to the end of that next week, and we'll begin Leon's scenario B. And we'll move into that, and you've seen this trailer rolling enough now that I will just move on. So that is our schedule for next week. The Devil in Me probably on Monday, Vampire the Masquerade Swansong on Wednesday, A Plague Tale Requiem on Thursday, no stream on Friday because I will be playing D&D, and Saturday Resident Evil 2, and then we will be right back around to the weekly news recap on Sunday. So, hope you guys had a good weekend. Normally I would say enjoy the rest of your weekend, but it's pretty much over, at least in my part of the world, because we streamed this so late. But thank you to anyone in the Silent Council who dropped by, and obviously you. We discovered the Silent Council love Gungrave Gore and thought it was an amazing game, because they didn't say otherwise. You know, they didn't say in the chat that they hated Gungrave Gore, so I can only assume they love it. So, if they want to say otherwise, they'll have to speak up. Anyway, VODs for any of those games we played this week, and games that I've played in any week, are all over on YouTube, which is the archive channel, youtube.com/Doomtrain5. You can find them all over there. Feel free to drop a comment over on YouTube. I am always looking at them because they're so rare. If you are on YouTube and you want to see some of these live, twitch.tv/Doomtrain5 is where you can also join the Silent Council if you want and lurk in the background, and I will attribute all sorts of horrible hot takes to you. And if you don't speak up, well, that's your problem. Anyway, have a good rest of your day. To people who still have a rest of the day to enjoy, I will I'm gonna eat these donuts that I got to cheer myself up, so that's the rest of my day sorted. Anyway, have a good one, and see you guys tomorrow for The Devil in Me. Bye bye. Thank you.